Good evening. Welcome back from our 15-minute break. It's 7 p.m. I want to be respectful of your time, so we'll start promptly. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Raynell Gould. Raynell is an Alaskan native from the Agagagwaks tribe. I'm sure I didn't pronounce that well. Her family was originally from King Cove, Alaska, and she's been a grant manager and grant writer for over 15 years. She has successfully written over $15 million in health, culture, language, and federal justice grants for tribes and nonprofit organizations. Raynell is presently the grant manager for the National Council of Urban Indian Health and is also one of our grant writers for this organization. In her spare time, she enjoys volunteering as a board member for a nonprofit organization, loves to travel, and spends time with her family. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Raynell Gould and ask her to begin her presentation.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well, and thanks for spending time with us. So I'm going to be talking about the high performance of the boards. So we're going to start off with the three important halves for high performing boards. One, Evelyn just mentioned the previous presentation about having a structured orientation program for new board members, which, like she had included, it's great to have the organizational chart, role descriptions, and it's really helpful actually to have the recent board member minutes to review. We also want to have ongoing trainings, which are essential to stay updated on best practices and working together. And the third half is to have an outside source provide full board trainings and retreats, either annually or biannually. And it's important to have an outside source to lead the trainings, because board members will not see this person as an outside source, rather outside source as employee, but a fresh source of advice. And retreats are important for team building, strategic planning, and possible fundraising trainings. Next slide, please. The next one. So our board committees determined on their bylaws, and that's determined on entity, how it operates. So you want to think of the bylaws as your organization's rule book for essential functions, such as how to run meetings, select directors, and appoint officers. And the board meetings versus facility committees. So the facility committee is responsible for providing guidance, oversight, and when appropriate, specialized expertise to the organization in long-range physical planning, capital renewal, capital projects, facilities related policies and procedures, and operations and maintenance. And it's always most important to keep agendas and meeting minutes. Next slide, please. So board committees also have subcommittees, and it's for, if we can go into the subcommittees, and each committee has a subcommittee usually, such as a finance committee, which they can help spread the workload of the treasurer, ensuring more democratic control of finances, help to prevent fraud, and help train new committee members. Next slide, please. Well, some of the general principles for all board committees and subcommittees is defined in the bylaws. You have goals, as you want to have goals as specific as possible. And committee has a work plan, which will have expected reports and education schedules, who staffs and supports the committees. You want to make sure you have the right members and rotate as necessary. and it's size appropriate. So you don't want it too small or too large. It's good to have roughly, around 7 to 12 in the membership. Next slide, please. General principles for all board committees. So I can run through these briefly. It's just you want to have monthly or quarterly meetings, relationship with the management. You want to make sure your board members are candid and honest discussions, and everyone feels that they can speak honestly and be able to discuss their own thoughts and opinions, informational transparency, and make sure you have good minutes that are reflective from your meeting, and the report to the full board of directors, and committee self-evaluation annually. So it's always great for each of the committee members to self-evaluate themselves to make, to keep on track, make sure you're in there for the right reason to help the organization grow. Next slide, please. So some of the potential board committees involve the audit or compliance committee, community benefit mission committee, the executive committee, governance, financial, executive evaluation, quality committee, quality professional affairs, strategic planning, and the development committee. And finding, especially with the development committee, you always want to be looking for potential new board members as some of the older ones are leaving. Next slide, please. So the audit compliance committee, they oversee the work of independent financial auditors, select external auditors, they oversee work of the internal auditors, they monitor internal controls, reviews financial statements, and the reviews board members' conflict of interest, they identify areas of risk and address hot emerging issues. Next slide, please. The executive committee, so they're not all the same. So the executive committee, the bylaws state that it can act on its own behalf of the board, and they meet as needed, frequently and nimbly, usually small and effective leaders. Next slide, please. So executive evaluation compensation, they review the CEO annually. They recommend compensation and package elements, defines justification for compensation. They define the CEO goals. The suspension planning needs independent data on compensations and deals with other key compensations. Next slide, please. The Finance and Investment Committee, they approve the annual operating budget. They review and approve long-range financial plan. They review and recommend capital expenditures. They review financial impact, aspect of new programs and services, monitors financial performance, reports financial statements and the profits and loss statements, and they usually go through that line by line a lot of times, and impact of payment reforms. Next slide, please. The Governance Committee leads board succession planning, plans and provides orientation and mentoring of trustees, plans and provides board education and the retreat planning, reviews board members, reviews and updates bylaws, profiles board members' competencies, attendance, conduct board self-assessment, and input for general counsel on legal and regulatory matters. Next slide. Quality Committee, they're responsible and they review and approve quality improvements, short and long term. review data and reports on quality, safety, service, and satisfaction, reviews scenario events and root cause analysis action plans, approves appointments and reappointments, utilizes dashboard metrics, customer surveys, accreditation reports, audit the credentialing process, and monitors pay for performance. Next slide. The Strategic Planning Committee ensures an exclusive planning process, makes recommendations to the full board, identifies key issues and drivers, reviews and monitors new initiatives, monitors implementation of major initiatives, financial impact plan, and stakeholder alignments. Next slide. Next slide, please. So the board performance matrix. Each member of the board of directors plays a key role in the success of an organization, both in terms of governance and support. And then the next slide will be a matrix, which is designed to explain each of these. So, for example, the board or committee meetings, the threshold that the bare minimum you'd be at would be to attend, as an example, attend at least 70% of meetings and actively participate and provide input, read and understand all material provided for meetings, participate on a board committee. And then like the medium would be full participation, which is the same as the threshold, but attend 85% of meetings. And to be an exceptional participation, you will also serve as a committee chair or an officer of the board. Next slide. So you want to make sure you take personal responsibility of growth as a leader and a board member, attend trainings, other trainings and organizations so you can add extra input, and you want to get out of your comfort zone, find and work with an executive coach, read, develop, and meet with other like-minded leaders in other organizations. This will help you grow with your organization and provide more input for your organization. So that was a very quick run through. We also have a lot of great resources that are, I believe, attached in this presentation as well.
We'll take a few moments, and again, participants may want to reflect on questions or comments, and we'll keep the chat box open for a little while. We have a few items left, our knowledge check items, and a brief discussion of upcoming events in terms of programs offered by TARC, other webinars, for example, the annual meeting. So we have a few moments left. So we'll keep our chat box open. If participants have questions, I know there was one question that Evelina had a chance to answer in the question box from Angel Galvez. I know he had to leave us, but if Evelina would like to maybe address the question more completely, others in the audience may be interested in her response to it. And I'll be glad to reread Angel's question if that will help.
Sure. I think, yes, I can answer Angel's question. The question was...
Go ahead.
Oh, the question was if I could share ideas of what to include for planning board retreats.
Yes.
That can offer a great platform to informally strengthen relationship and strategic thinking. One of the things I would strongly recommend is creating a board member self-assessment periodically on what their best way to gauge engagement is. So so this is really getting at how do I communicate, and how will I be able to participate at the highest and optimal level to have this great engagement in order for us to either talk through, vote on, make a decision, and or maybe provide or lend recommendations for the CEO and the C-suite leadership to guide and support, encourage, and help advocate for that desired outcome. So I put in the chat box some of these recommendations, but I think it's really important to have board members fill out a self-assessment periodically. Maybe that's annually, and it's really at the discretion of the board members. I think it's really important to understand how we communicate and how we're able to do that. Okay, understand ourselves individually, but also as a group, what is the consensus and what will work? I think the other thing that really the question asks, the underlying question really is, how are we able to create an environment or instill behavior where we have true engagement among board members? And some tips: onboard new recruits right away. It's important to develop a clear role and establish accountability. Allow directors to participate in a strategic decision. So this is the directors, could be C-suite leadership, or it could be the CEO with the board, and being able to have dialogue back and forth to understand and to be able to participate at that level. Enable effective board communication. I think that lends and goes back to the importance of creating a self-assessment two ways: individually as a board member, and also as a group of the committee or the set of board of directors. Also allow the board of directors to effectively prepare for board meetings. There might be a strategic meeting to be had, or a retreat that's going to occur. Allowing board of directors to arrive maybe a half a day earlier so that they can get through the materials, because they know what they're going to be discussing and working on during those retreat days. So really putting that time aside for preparation and understanding the materials, the content of what's to be discussed, voted, or acted upon. Ensure that all the board of directors collaborate, even between the board meetings. There might be an opportunity, for example, maybe mentorship for new board of directors coming on board. So just really being able to create that safe space for that type of dialogue to happen outside of the regular board meetings as well. It's really important. You can have a meeting anywhere, virtually. It could be out of town. It could be situated away from the organization or within that organization at that site. Wherever and however the team decides, it's important to create space where there's going to be no interruption, that the expectation from the get-go at that retreat or that meeting is, we are here to concentrate, we are here to focus, we are here to have this dialogue, and we desire everybody's attention. And so there might be no cell phone rules, and making sure in advance board members clear out specific timeframes or days, however long this retreat or this meeting might take place. So those are some things I would definitely consider. And the last thing I didn't put in here is there's a whole slew of different kinds of facilitators in the industry. I would definitely hire someone that has worked with your population that you serve, that understands the way, for example, we might have board of directors that come straight from tribal communities, and the way we communicate might be different. And so our communication and the way we convey information and messages is really important. So for whoever we decide to facilitate or if we decide to have a board member to facilitate these meetings, or maybe it's a C-suite leadership or someone from the staff from the UIO, whoever it is, it's really important that they're able to understand what the group's desired outcome will be. And that might come from the CEO. It might come from the board of director president, or the vice, whoever it is. There's usually clear expectation of what the purpose of this meeting is going to be. What is going to be our goal? What is our outcome? By the end of the session, what will we walk away with? So those are some things the facilitator, whoever's going to run these meetings, should be able to do, should be able to also feel the energy and be able to bring conversations to a certain point or end that conversation, that sort of thing. So there's all kinds of things that go into facilitation. So just a quick reminder that, be sure to pick the right one for your organization and your group. And finally, the resources. There's a link I put in there for regarding board engagement I've used previously. It's the Council of Nonprofit Organizations, something to just look through. They have got some great materials there for you all.
That's excellent. I really appreciate that resource, and I'm sure our audience will appreciate it as well. I really think your advice about picking the right facilitator is just right on point. I'm curious if you or Raynell have had experiences where maybe you recruit a facilitator by word of mouth. Maybe there are other organizations that you're familiar with. Maybe perhaps other UIOs might have some ideas about who they've used in the past as facilitators. Do you think that that is word of mouth and peer-to-peer networking another source to find that ideal facilitator? Either one of you could, if you feel like addressing that question.
Raynell, do you want to comment first, then I can follow up, or would you like me to take a stab?
Raynell, you're on mute, Raynell.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so with our organization, a couple of the organizations I've been with, only one of them we went with an outside facilitator with a retreat, was our Alaska dance troupe and so forth. But it was really, I can't recall who it was at the time, but it was very helpful to have someone from the outside because, they're not part of the group. And so they had some great advice and so forth. But at that time, the group, there's a couple of people that, they kind of had difference of opinion. So having someone from the outside was useful because they were on a neutral level and so forth. So for that aspect, it was useful for our group.
Thank you, Raynell. I don't know, Evie, you had a.
In some of the work that I've done with certain organizations, I used to work with Walter Murillo at Phoenix Native Health, and in our division at the time, I was charged as the director for community health and division. And one of the things that we did as a division was even create a strategic plan as a division, and it had to align with the organizational goals and perspective. But the unique thing about that is that we had to identify a facilitator that knew nonprofit, that knew some knowledge about development at least, and also not a whole lot of American Indian, Alaskan Native type of healthcare system. But the reason why we chose that for that reason was at the time the CEO, for example, one of the tasks was to develop that division. And so the ask was what was currently in the Phoenix metropolitan area as far as services around public health, chronic disease prevention and management, and what is that niche that urban Indian health organization needed to identify so that it can then begin to build that division. Okay, so I bring that example because it's really important to ask yourselves as a board of director, what is our current need? What direction do we want to go? And who could help facilitate some of these discussions with maybe some experience and or knowledge about these key areas that would help our board of directors derive to that desired outcome through discussions or activities, you know, those types of conversation. And I totally agree with Raynell that it's important also to find someone that is able to not put feelings into their work, but rather allow the conversations to naturally occur and navigate those conversations so that the participants actually own the actual product of that dictation or the documentation of the meeting that had occurred through conversations. And there's an art to that and how to even have conversations without putting for example, if I'm going to facilitate, I'm not going to put my feelings into the way a question is posed, because I wouldn't want the participants to be, you know, pushed into a certain region or area or a favorable response from my, you know, so we have to be very careful. And you know, experience, license, and there are organizations or nonprofits and private, I guess, small business owners who facilitate and who do that well. I actually reach out to my colleagues within the divisions and departments. They've expressed some of experiences they've had. It could be maybe the county health department had some ideas and who might have some great experience. Word of mouth is really good among your colleagues and contacts and, you know, in your network as well.
Yeah, that's I appreciate your responding so comprehensively. I think it's useful to be able to you know, share the knowledge in kind of a horizontal way, that you know, experts that are working right in the trenches with you often have some ideas that are a different insider perspective that you can benefit from. So that capacity to be open and to share with one another is really something that a high performing board is good at. You know, I think there was the suggestion of transparency was one of the way that idea was described, so that boards felt like information was shared openly. There's a sense of honesty and no kinds of secrecy, which can feel really toxic to a board if there's that sense of information being hoarded or not shared. It can really complicate relationships on a board and create kind of a poisonous environment. I wanted to sort of turn to our audience. I know they've been patient and listening. We can unmute our mics, and you're welcome to join in anywhere. I think maybe just one final question for us to go out on about board performance and selection and recruitment. If there are any ideas or anecdotes any of our attendees would like to share about maybe their experience as new board members or their experience with reaching out to find board members, that certainly would be welcome to add to our dialogue here. And then we'll close out with our knowledge questions and maybe be able to yield back a few minutes to you this evening. So the mics, we can, just by indicating you want to raise your hand, we can unmute your mic, or we could unmute all of them and let you just talk. We're a small enough group where that shouldn't be a problem. Any folks by a show of hands have something they'd like to add? Now is the time. Evie and I were talking about teaching. Now is the time when teachers call it wait time. When you put a question out there and no one wants to be the first one to raise their hand, you have to give them time to decide to raise their hand. So there's no right or wrong answers here. Any topic you'd like to add in that arena of board relationships? Oh, let's see. Donna's Drapeau.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to, so I'm a new board member.
Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you for your service. First of all, go
Yeah,
ahead, please.
Thank you. I don't have a question really, but I really want to say thank you to you guys for the training here. I've learned a lot in these past 2 sessions that we've had, and I look forward to the 3rd one. I know as a new board member and learning like the mission, I knew where the Urban Indian Health Center is located. I did a shadowing experience there, but to be on the board member, it excites me in knowing what we can do for the people that are in the Sioux Falls area, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So I just want to say thank you to you guys.
Thank you. That's an interesting observation too about the shadowing experience. That sounds like a very nice way to augment orientation for new members.
Yes, I agree.
Evie, did you?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to congratulate you and welcome you to the world of board of directorship. There's a huge responsibility around that. And a lot of time goes into it. And you're right. I think at the end of the day, it's for the best interest for the population, your organization you represent, serve. And it may seem daunting at times, but I encourage you and I congratulate you and I commend you for stepping up to that type of and level of work. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Any final observations or comments from other attendees? I'm really glad you've been able to stay with us for both sessions. The 3rd session will offer more opportunities for dialogue about some of the materials we've discussed and also a final presentation. So it'll be a little different from our other 2. Hopefully it'll be really engaging for those of you who stick in there with us. So I'm glad you've been able to hang in there, Ms. Rapo. Closing thoughts are welcome. Well, again, I want to thank all of you for your participation, and again, I respect your desire to serve your community. Your willingness to step forward and go the extra mile in that service is really laudable. So I want to thank each and every one of you. Again, I'm glad you've been able to hang in there with us for 2 sessions. Our 3rd session will be 2 weeks from tonight. We'll close our session with our knowledge check questions. I think we can go straight to the knowledge check. And there we go. We'll leave our items up there. Give you a few more seconds. Thank you so much. I appreciate your participation in our knowledge check. We actually keep track of the pre and post gains in knowledge, and we hope that over time our not only our competencies improve, but we sharpen our skills in such a way that our toolkits get better as we become we move from novice board member to seasoned professional. A few upcoming events from NCUIH. On April 30th, we have a youth-oriented activity called Creating Touchstones for saying thank you. It's a special activity that shows off arts and crafts. We would invite you to have your young people tune in and find out more about it. It's a very special activity using art, not only art as therapy, but art as a stress management tool. So it's a very nice presentation on April 30th. The open forum that will end our COVID community of learning is scheduled for May 11th. The open forum is called It's Lonely at the Top, Connecting to Each Other for Creative Solutions. We will have a facilitated dialogue with leaders from across our 42 UIOs from across the nation, sharing their ideas and connecting with one another to discuss the challenges of the COVID pandemic and how we can not only cope with burnout, but what's often referred to as compassion fatigue, as something that challenges our capacity to deliver quality care. Then finally, on May 12th, we have our third and final session of the board training series. Our series is called High-Performing Boards in a Virtual World session. In a virtual world, session 3. The final presentations on the board's role in safety, quality, and compliance. And finally, bringing it all together is our final session of that evening. The safety, quality, and compliance conversation is particularly useful for those of you facing accreditation. Concerns with QI are central to the accreditation challenge, and we look forward to that conversation. So I hope you can join us on May 12th. Again, those are upcoming events by the National Council of Urban Indian Health, and we look forward to having you join us. Just want to point out that in the chat box, the survey that will allow you to give us feedback on tonight's session or the series itself has been posted. If you click on that, it would just ask you for taking a couple minutes to complete the survey, and that will round out tonight's evening. Although we were scheduled to go till 7:45, it looks like you're going to get a little bit of your evening back. And so I hope you take some of that time to complete the survey. We really want to hear from you and get that feedback so we can share your responses, your anonymous responses, to with our management and with the Indian Health Service, to let everybody know what you think about our training opportunities and how we can improve our training and technical assistance. Again, clicking the link in the chat box will take you directly to that survey. So with that, again, I want to thank you for your patience. I really appreciate all of you being able to hang in there with us. This is session 2 of a 3-session series. So we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks, and hope you all have a wonderful evening. I want to thank our presenters, Evelina Maho and Raynell Gould. They did a wonderful job and shared a lot of good information. Keep your eye on your emails. We'll be sending out the slide deck as well as the recorded session to you in just a couple of days, actually. So we look forward to your participation on May 12th, so you can join us for that third and final session. Good night, everyone, and thanks for the support team. I want to thank Noel Zulke, who was running all of our IT and support from behind the scenes and under the comms and events banner. I want to thank Sabu, who joined us in support capacity as well. And again, thank you to all our presenters and, of course, the audience. We couldn't have done them without you. Take care, everyone, and have a good evening.